Hey folks, Grant from Gunspot here for the ArmoryLife.com. Today's video we're going to be talking about how you level your scope. Alright, scope leveling, super important for your accuracy. We do not want a reticle that's tilted or canted in your view because that's going to affect your accuracy at distance. It's going to affect the adjustments that you apply to that scope. You want it to go up in elevation, not up and left or up and right. So it's really important that you start out with a good leveled scope. Now part of that is don't take it to the local gun store and have them do it. It's kind of a nuanced thing to level scopes correctly. Now, being a former sniper, I'm a little bit more anal than some folks as far as how particular I am in the setup of my scope. Everything from mounting the bases, rings, all the way up, I follow a very detailed system of doing that. But the basics of leveling the scope really starts with the rings. So what I have is a tool called the device. Now this tool is actually for assembling ARs, but this is the bottom side of it. It has a Picatinny rail system, and I only use Picatinny rail systems on my scope rifles. I like them, they give me versatility, and I think there is just a huge amount of benefits, especially if maybe you have small children that might want to utilize your rifle as well. They're probably going to have shorter necks, so the scope can move back a notch or two to fit them. So what I do with the device is I start by leveling it. And so it's really handy if you have a workbench or a tabletop that's good and sturdy. It's not going to shake and wobble around. And then it's level. If it's not level, you're going to have to shim it. You're going to have to do things to get it level. And what I just used was a little, Johnson leveling tool that I picked up at a local hardware store. It's been handy. It's well used. I've had it for probably 20 some odd years, and I've already worked to get my vise and the device level. And so that's going to let me know that I am starting correctly as I mount my rings to it. Once I get that accomplished, I set it aside, and I'll come in and I will mount my rings onto the device. And so when you put in rings, you want to slide them forward against the notch, and I would take my screws here, and I tell you, this is not my scope of rings. I only use Badger Ordnance. Personally, I'm a snob. I like Badger. It's quality stuff. I would torque these to the exact torque settings that I'm going to run the gun at, just because it's going to shift and settle into place, and I want it as exact as it's going to be in the field. So I torque that in place. If I didn't already have the scope on here, what I would say is at that point, I would place the scope in the bottom half of the rings. I would again take my Johnson level tool. I would check, and I would move the scope till the top of the turret is showing level. Now, a lot of people, that's kind of where they end. They level the scope, and sometimes these aren't quite accurate. Not that the turret itself isn't plumb, but how the cap is made, how it screws in, how tight it screws in might not be level. So this is, I just used to get it close. From there, I'm going to apply a CTK precision leveler, and that's going to just serve to let me know that I didn't twist that mount. And so it tells me I'm still leveled. From there, I'm going to hang a plumb bob across my shop. And for most optics, especially if you have a higher end bottom magnification, you're going to have to get that plumb bob quite a ways away for your scope to be able to focus on that string. And so we've obviously got a custom plumb bob here. If you're not a carpenter, this is not a true plumb bob, but hey, it's Gunspot, so a hand grenade was appropriate. But this, because it's being pulled by the weight, is going to be a perfect level plumb, and I want to match the vertical stadia of my optic to that string. And you might find for your particular optic that you need a thicker string or a thinner string or maybe a different color string for you to pick it out. But I'm going to set that up, I'm going to look through the optic, and I'm going to match those two together, and then I'm going to apply that top ring, and then I'm going to go through slowly incremental adjustments, crisscrossing the scope, evenly sucking that scope down into that position. All the while, I'm keeping my levels in check and checking the plumb bob. And what you'll end up with at the end of that is properly torqued rings to a mount, properly torqued top rings to your scope with vertically plumb stadia, which is going to produce good, consistent precision over the long range. All right, folks, thanks for watching. This has been How to Level Your Scope. Remember, train hard, your family deserves it.